Hello, welcome to this lesson on the Phillips curve. So we have the Phillips curve right here. It shows inflation on the y-axis and unemployment on the x-axis. And then you can see here that the Phillips curve slopes downwards because of an inverse relationship between inflation and unemployment. An increase in inflation shown by an upward movement right here along the Phillips curve. And you can see that as inflation increases, here, unemployment decreases. So that's that inverse relationship. On the other hand, a decrease in inflation is shown by a downwards movement along the Phillips curve right here. And you can see as inflation decreases, unemployment increases. If there's an increase in inflation and unemployment at the same time, this is shown by a right shift of the Phillips curve. Another point, if you see that inflation and unemployment are both increasing at the same time, we call this stagflation. The economy is stagnating, and there's inflation at the same time. If there's a decrease in inflation and unemployment at the same time, then we would show that by a left shift of the Phillips curve. Let's add a little bit more here to show more details. The long run Phillips curve shows us the natural rate of unemployment, or NRU. So a point on the short run Phillips curve, which is this downward sloping one, that intersects with the long run Phillips curve shows us the inflation rate in the economy when we are at the natural rate of unemployment. Now, there could be some changes in the Phillips curve, but remember that in the long run, the economy always returns back to its natural state, which is the natural rate of unemployment. So for the first scenario we have right here, we're going from point A to point B. This shows that unemployment is decreasing until it returns back to the natural rate of unemployment. But this leads to higher inflation. This could be caused by more spending because when there's more spending, businesses get more money, more revenue, and they can hire more people. People get more jobs, which leads to higher prices, less unemployment. The second scenario right here shows us going from point A to point B, but now the unemployment rate's increasing until it returns back to the natural rate of unemployment. When this unemployment rate increases, that causes the inflation rate to go downwards. This is caused by less spending in the economy. Because when there's less spending, businesses earn less revenue, and eventually they have to start firing some people. So inflation goes down because there's less spending, but unemployment goes up until it returns back to its natural state. For the next scenario, we have a shift here because unemployment and inflation are both decreasing until unemployment returns to its natural rate of unemployment. So in this scenario, we had something in the economy that lowered both unemployment and inflation at the same time. So we have to shift the short run Phillips curve right here to the left. And this could be caused by more productivity. So we got more people working and more supply, which means prices are lower. So you got more people working, less unemployment, more supply, lower prices. The last scenario right here is when unemployment and inflation both increase. So remember, this was like stagflation. They're both increasing. But here, they're just returning back to the natural rate of unemployment. So it's not stagflation just yet. It's just that it's going back to the natural rate of unemployment. But both unemployment and inflation are increasing. This could be caused by higher resource costs, which leads to less production. Because there's less production and these higher costs, there's going to be some people that get fired. So there's going to be less people working. So the economy unemployment rate goes back up to the natural rate of unemployment. And because there's less supply, you have a higher price level. Prices are higher right here. This could be caused by, let's say, workers asking for a raise. So they give some workers a raise, but then they have to let go of some workers. So the unemployment rate increases until it gets back to its natural state. Now, remember, in the long run, the economy is always going to return back to its natural state, which is the natural rate of unemployment. That's all for this lesson. See you next time.